All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checker TV, where tonight we have the Area 51 Indy Oval Series here tonight at Phoenix Raceway. As you can see on the blimp cam right now, qualifying has just about to, or I should say, qualifying is just about to begin. Drivers getting set up to put their Q laps down, and this is going to be the third to last race of the season. Tonight we will be here at Phoenix. In 2 weeks' time at Kentucky. And 2 weeks after Kentucky will be that season finale at Auto Club Speedway. So again, right now the big question is going to be, can anybody chase into that points lead of Mark Murphy, or is he built up enough over the course of that first half of the season to kind of just, I wouldn't say run away with it, but kind of just keep that margin steady, and he's just been super consistent. And again, talk about the top fives, the top tens. Right now, say looking at his best 10 of his 11 races, 8 of them are in the top 5, and then 10 of those 10 are in the top 10. And actually, I have to look at the stats too, because Matt Wagner's in the same boat. He's got 8 top 5s as well to the end, 10 top 10, so right on par with Mark. However, Mark's got the 3 wins to Matt's 1, and that's where the 75-point difference is between the two of them. And then only 2 points behind Matt is Eric Schaus, and he's same thing, great stats, 7 top 5s, 9 top 10s. So these guys have all been having really solid seasons. So we'll see if anybody's going to try to make some ground on that number 69 car. This is a track it could happen at. Very, very quick 1 mile oval here at Phoenix Raceway. And yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll get to actually show a car drive into victory lane here tonight, because this is a track in iRacing where you can actually drive in there. And so it's kind of one of those fun little features to see. So it'll be a lot of fun for the drivers here this evening. A little shorter field at the moment, showing about 13 drivers, but sometimes at a track like this, almost less is more. And saying I'll let these drivers kind of get a rhythm. But yeah, short tracks like this are definitely ones where you have to be careful if you're kind of playing it safe. Just a lot can happen in a very short amount of time.
Kyle, good to be with you tonight here at Phoenix. And yeah, I one thing you were talking about there, especially with the last 10 races and everything, Murphy's kind of trended a little downwards when Matt Wagner has trended a little upwards. But let's not forget the Edson Santos effect, because Edson Santos has been one of those guys who's qualified so well. And when he qualifies well, he tends to race well. So there's a couple of spoilers in this group of drivers here tonight as well.
And that's exactly it. Is, I mean, obviously with where we are, we're always watching the championship battle. That's just kind of what we do. But yeah, you're right though. There's the guys that maybe just either missed some races or just had some bad luck the first half of the season, and they're not concerned about that. They said, you know what, we want to go for the wins of these races. It's a lot of fun to win races, and that's going to be their goal, is to go out there and again, and it's one of those things too where it puts the pressure on the other driver who maybe is points racing, where, hey, do I really want to make this gamble and really fight this hard for the position? So there's that risk versus reward. And if you're in that chasing group like Matt Wagner and Eric Schaus, maybe you kind of roll the dice and say, hey, all right, Mark, I'm going to make this move. Are you willing to defend it? Because it's one, like, I hate to say it that way, but it's almost one of those, like, you've got more to lose than I do kind of a situation. So, and again, I'm not hinting like that the driver's going to make like dive bomb moves or things like that, but there is that mindset where it's like, when you've got nothing to lose, you can be a little extra aggressive and maybe try to make a move that maybe normally you wouldn't make to try to get a little bit of time. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of, yeah, who's going to make what strategies. Fuel mileage could come into play here as well, Andrew. 140 laps. And I was hearing that it sounds like the fuel window is going to be right around the 45-ish range, maybe stretching it a little bit. But from what I was doing my bad math, 47 laps, I believe, is the magic number to make it to the end on 2 stops. Of course, pending it going caution-free. So we'll have to see if that comes into play here tonight as well.
So I was watching Edson Santos to see if he would pull out another pole position, but unfortunately he's going to be starting kind of mid-pack right now, and that's a little bit of a bad omen for him, because when he started mid-pack, it's been kind of difficult. And when you're racing it here at Phoenix, especially the new Phoenix layout, it tends to be a little difficult to make passes and everything. So I want to shout out to Eric Schaus, who was one of our championship contenders for a long time, but he's shown and flexed his muscle here, and this may be the opportunity for him to kind of turn his season around too. Mark Murphy's starting outside of the front row, so Murphy's going to keep his reign going for now, but who knows what could happen during the race. There's any sort of strategy that can take place that could change everything around.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm looking at the last kind of shorter track we had on the schedule, and that was Iowa, and it was Mark Murphy getting the win after starting second. Who got the pole position, finished second? Eric Schaus. So right now, positions exactly the same where they qualified here versus Iowa. Of course, this time Eric's going to want to try to see if he can finish that one spot above. And so, yeah, so just like you'd mentioned there, Andrew, let's go ahead and do that then now. Let's get that starting grid pulled up here. And here you go. You've got Eric Schaus over Mark Murphy by about, 24 thousandths of a second. Craig Forsyth there third, Sam Cosner in the 00 in fourth, Matt Wagner, again, our other championship contender at the moment, in fifth. Then you got Nick Wheeler there, Jeff Heisong, Edson Santos, you mentioned not the qualifying he was looking for. And then Casey Pahutsky and Jim Herrick in the top 10. And then a couple drivers opting not to qualify tonight, and that's going to be Frank Irwin Jr., Joseph Morales, and Bill Colley. So like I said, not a huge grid here tonight. But again, though, I don't think we'll see any shortage of aggression and racing this evening. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what these guys have in store for us this evening.
Phoenix is traditionally a very hard place to pass at, so it's going to be a matter of trying to figure out where you can get the advantage of kind of swinging the car outside to inside. You got to race very close to the cars ahead of you, and that's easy to do once you're in the beginning part of the stint, but once the tires start to wear, it becomes very difficult later on. So for guys I'm looking to move forward, I think you could definitely see the Matt Wagner, Nick Wheeler kind of folks trying to really put the pressure on the guys ahead of them. And we'll see if they make their way towards the front or not, and see if the guys up front really want to give the spots up, or if they want to just kind of hang out and hold their positions up front, instead of this fuel safe situation that you usually see during these races.
Yeah, and then also for me, Andrew, it's going to be the track position, but then also just the clean air. You're going to want to try to keep some clean air in the front of these cars. We always talk about that as well. So you might have to put your car in a position that maybe you don't really want it to be. So I'm going to be very intrigued as well there, what lines we're going to see these guys run. I can tell you that you are not able to run the dog leg. You can't cut that like you see in NASCAR and all that. However, we're going with this version just due to the fact that don't need to be having a million cones on track and things of that nature. So, and it looks like we're going to go one extra time around here, or actually did the pace car drop? I think it did. So actually we will be going green this time. And this is the other crazy part, is there's your pit road entry, but you got to go through this entire back stretch, which used to be the front stretch, before you get to the last turn and then get to that restart zone. And it's saying in different series, you can actually jump once that pace car's off the racing surface. But again, you can see here, initial start here, always on that green flag. So that's just seeing Eric Schaus do, waiting until he gets that green as they hit that restart zone. And then we will be underway here tonight at Phoenix as the green flag flies. We're underway 140 laps here tonight.
If you were to watch a NASCAR race, you'd see a lot of these guys taking that dog leg that cut through the turn one, I guess you're going to call it. And of course, we're going to mess up the turns as we do this race here, because we're so used to the old Phoenix where everything is the front straightaway, which they just passed going into turn one, but that's actually turn 3 and 4. The cars can't really take that dog leg there because it may kind of upset the underbody, the floor, where these guys get most of their arrows. So it's going to be a little difficult for us to kind of make the right from the wrong, the top from the bottom here. So looks like everyone's kind of staying single file for now. No one's really moved up too much, but it's just the beginning part of the stint right now where people are trying to figure out exactly where they sit, how their cars are working, playing with the in-car tools a little bit. And the only really advantage we're seeing right now is up here in the front first and second positions.
Yeah, it's right now. Mark Murphy's going for the inside line, got inside of Eric, but talk about the momentum shift, and there you go. Eric's just able to clear there, puts his nose in, or puts the rear wing in front of the nose, I should say, of Mark Murphy, gives him a little dirty air. But so far, these guys holding pretty well in that dirty air. I really expected to see the field kind of start to spread out by like kind of half a second right off the kick, but I mean, right now you've got everybody within about a half a second, 2/10, 3/10 of one another. So field staying very tightly packed at the moment. And like you said, it is very single file right now. Not a lot of position changes as of yet, But also we talked about the fuel mileage. Some guys maybe trying to make sure they get to that fuel number before they then start to make the charge. But then also it's a short track here tonight, Andrew. If you want to pit, again, if it's a smaller field, there's a more likelihood of it going green. Saw a little moment there from Matt Wagner. Got a little off-center there out of turn 2, not 4. And so things like that, though. So if you're in this front pack here, I think you want to save as much fuel as you can. So you want to pit as late as you can in the off chance of a caution during the pit stop cycle, and that could put you a lap ahead of the field. So there's definitely some planning and some playing with strategies that you can definitely do here tonight.
I think you watched how the pace car came down the pit lane there, and you saw how long on a wait to go, and that's part of the new Phoenix racetrack here, is that the pit lane is so long, and if you want to pit early to try and do an undercut, you're going to want to put yourself in a situation where you're actually going a lot slower than the cars around you on the track. So it's quite possible that you can actually lose over a lap here to pit early. So the undercut may be worthy, especially if there's high tire wear, but you run the risk of putting yourself way far down the field, especially if no one ahead of you is pit yet. And the cars that want to kind of do a longer run actually may run a little bit longer than you, and then you're going to wind up being a lap down, maybe even a lap and a half to 2 laps down.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, and that's my concern. And you can see here just the fighting for position there. Looks like Edson's just able to get around Jeff Heisong, but in the process now they're about 1.3 seconds off the back of Nick Wheeler ahead of them. So that's again just how much time you can lose battling with one another. So now, right now, Nick Wheeler, he's got a little bit of kind of breathing room behind him, if you will. And let's say right now the gap is going back the right way. However, it's just one of those things where now these guys have the same thing. If they're fuel saving, they turn that fuel map right back up here, try to close that gap back up to Nick. And then again, if there's fuel saving going on, then they can back it down. But right now, like I said, only a couple changes in spots. Edson there gaining a spot there on Jeff, and then Jim Herrick able to jump around Casey Putsky. But other than that, right now, everybody's pretty much right where they qualified. And that said, it wasn't for a lack of effort. We saw how hard Mark Murphy was to try to get around Eric Schaus. You can still see there he goes again. He's going to try to take a look to the inside. And again, it's that short distance versus momentum on exit here, Andrew. I mean, where do you think you need to be in this point?
It's very hard to tell because everyone's kind of running their comfortable line right now, and it seems like a lot of the top 6 there are really just trying to stay single file. And the way these cars are running, you can almost make it seem like everybody's kind of just doing like a super speedway kind of line. Everyone's kind of entering high, kind of coming down to the middle part of the corner, and then exiting on the high side as well. So it's very hard, especially if everybody's keeping their foot down to make any sort of positions. But you kind of have to outfox someone and get underneath someone's rear wing to make the pass. But if you know that that's a very difficult thing to do, then it's very easy to just kind of sit behind the car. You see the leader ahead. You see the cars ahead of you that you're trying to battle. And if that's the case, you may just want to kind of stay where you are and put the fuel map to a higher one to save a little bit more fuel. And then once the cars ahead of you peel off to the pits, then maybe you just save a little bit more fuel and you do a couple laps later and see if the undercut works.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. Again, this is all based on getting green flag pit stops, but I think it's going to be all about who can get in and out of pit road the best. And I believe I did hear them talking about pitting will be on the entry of turn 3. So right here where Mark is, you'll need to make that sharp left down onto the apron instead of kind of trying to come off the track here and jump into pit road. So, and honestly, with the way these cars drive and the grip that they have, I think that's going to be, it won't even really slow the pace down. I think it's going to be safer, but also still a really quick pit entry. So it's going to be who's that driver that's willing to kind of take those extra chances, maybe get those extra couple of tenths on entry. Something that we talked about a little bit pre-race. You want to make some adjustments to the car, set up weight jacker, things like that to kind of get the car where it needs to be. Where on track on the banking, you want the weight jacker at this point, but when you're having to really lock it down on the brakes and not have to make any dramas for kind of the pit entry, usually the weight jacker goes towards the back of the car. Ooh, saw there in the background. I think that may have been Nick Wheeler, just maybe a slight kiss. I think he's going to be okay with it, but maybe just a little catch to the wall there. But You saw, obviously, while we were talking about it, Mark Murphy now looks like he's gotten around Eric Schaus and has been able to hold it now. We saw them kind of flip back and forth there for a couple laps, and now Mark's able to hang on to that spot.
It looks like actually some of the guys back here in fifth, sixth or so are trying to find ways around, and make no mistake, it's very, very difficult to try and find a clean air situation to get by the car ahead of you. But it's not easy to run in this line here because you're constantly searching on both sides of the track to see, okay, where's the clean air? Where's the situation where I can get a little bit of an advantage? Because the guy ahead of you is always kind of searching for the car ahead of them to find a clean air pocket there. And it's very difficult to find that. So if you're watching this and you make it seem like, oh, these guys are just kind of going around in circles and doing everything like that, it's much more than that. It takes a lot of focus and a lot of determination to see what the car ahead of you is doing to try and find some sort of advantage that can benefit you later on.
Yeah, and you're doing all this while making laps under 20 seconds as well. So there's not a lot of time to breathe and relax and be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. You're pretty much just full reaction right off the kick. So, yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of commitment and focus right now. As, again, on the fuel strategy side of things here, Andrew, we're about halfway through this fuel run. Again, we talked about that lap 47, maybe lap 50-ish if they really stretch it. So we're going to start to get to that window. Because, again, with it being 140 laps, you'll kind of have to try to find the way to split that evenly. So it should be pretty much a two-stopper for everybody. If we see anybody pitting at 45, I would say they might need to do a little bit of extra saving on that next run. But again, on lap time wise, I think the overcut's going to be the way to go here, Andrew, because I'm not seeing much time fall off. The best time right now by Mark Murphy was a 19.29. His last lap was a 19.49. Schaus ran a 44. His best was a 26. So right now they're literally maybe 0.2 of a second slower than what they've run as their best laps. So that to me tells me that tires versus fuel versus track position, you want track position all day, every day.
I think you're absolutely right that these guys are starting to really move around a lot more, and they're really trying to find that clean air. And I think the overcut is actually the way to go, just kind of what you were saying. And I think these guys are just waiting for anyone to peel off ahead of them so they can maybe get up to the car ahead of them or find any pocket of clean air that they possibly can. And some of these guys around the Matt Wagner and Sam Cosner area here, they're just seeing nothing but dirty air around them the whole time. And the more you try and adjust the car and try and find some way to get the car more loose, the more you get a little bit worried that you're just going to keep running the same line, and the guy ahead of you is going to be watching in his mirrors to see what you're doing and doing everything they can to try and block your air. I thought I saw Eric Schaus kind of struggling a little bit because he seemed to be falling back, but he's actually putting a lot of pressure right now on Mark Murphy for that lead, and it looks like he's going for a move here.
Yeah, you're right. I saw the same thing. I was like, all right, Mark's got it settled in. He's going to go back after and try to run away. And exactly right. As soon as I was kind of watching that, then yeah, Eric turned the wick up. Or is it same thing? Did maybe Mark back his pace down a little bit, try to get to that magic field number, and then basically Eric said not so fast. And as soon as we say that, here he goes, some more battles going on. We just talked about Sam and Matt. Matt's trying to make a move there on Sam, trying to enter turn number 3 and 4. Now entering 1 and 2, and couldn't quite make it stick again. Talk about the distance versus momentum. And again, as fast as these cars are, you want to take the shorter distance. However, you can't throttle out nearly as well and keep that wheel opened up like Sam was able to do. And that's keeping that keeping the 6 at bay from the 00. So yeah, really, really good job by Sam right now. And like you said, he's just hunting for clean air too, because like I said, he's got to watch for everybody in front of him are going, where's Craig, where's Mark? You see Craig there down low. Sam said, yep, I'm going to jump to that middle top lane. But Matt was able to get a really good run there through 3 and 4 on the bottom. Again, can't quite get underneath there, but he's definitely trying to work him over here.
I think they actually started to lose a little bit of ground to the top 3 ahead, but I don't think that's really going to be too big of a problem, because once they all start battling and the dirty air from the top 3 starts to take shape, they're going to close right back up again. So at this point, you're 36 laps into the run. You're trying to find a car setting that works for you, and at this point, you feel like you've exhausted everything that kind of makes your car turn, not turn, just find clean air, have some difficulty trying to find it. All sorts of things happen at this point. So at this point, you're just really trying to make it to the pit stop. And if you find a pocket of clean air that gets you forward, great. If not, just hope that the car's ahead of you pit, or you can maybe do some sort of pit to get yourself in a different part of the track where there's a lot more clean air.
Yep, and say right now we thought Mark was running away. Now it's Eric starting to run away about 0.8 of a second. Craig's able to jump Mark Murphy. We'll see if Mark's going to try to cross him over here through 3 and 4. And again, talk about short distance first momentum. We'll see, can Mark clear Craig? No, not quite. So Craig's going to continue the momentum. You can see him surge just a little ahead. Now let's say this is turns 1 and 2, a little faster turn with lower banking. But oh man, look at there. That was commitment for Mark Murphy. Did not want to let Craig back by. And just like you said, that little bit of battling they were doing there for second. Here's Sam Cosner. Here's Matt Wagner right back into the fray.
And you see Eric Schaus has completely taken off now. He's about a little over a second ahead of Mark Murphy, and that just has to do with Mark just battling a little bit with Craig. And I spoke to Mark earlier, and he kind of was downplaying his chances here. I think he's really trying to come out of this race with the best finish possible. So if he struggles a little bit, it's not going to be that big of a deal. This is not one of Mark's kind of favorite tracks. So I think as long as he comes out of here with a podium, or maybe just off the podium, he'll have a championship lead. And no one's really going to touch him for the next couple of races. But it's not over yet. And I'm sure Mark is thinking of that. He's been points racing for much of the back half of the season here now. So if he loses a spot here, I'm sure he'd much happier take that than some sort of DNF or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. But you can also see that he's just not rolling over as we're going to jump now back to this battle for the 4th spot. Now Matt's gotten underneath Sam Cosner. We'll see again, can he complete the pass? No, can't quite do it. Here's the momentum back. Matt had to roll out of the throttle there, and you could see it because Sam was able to surge right back by there and then bring you right back into the picture here. There's Nick Wheeler, Edson Santos. He's joined this fray as well, so it's starting to pick up again. Like I said, as soon as these guys get 2 by 2, it starts to bring others back right to them. And again, also now look how far Sam once more has dropped off of Craig and Mark, and we saw him pull right back up once those two started battling with one another. So yeah, right now it's definitely kind of what approach do you want to take? Where do you try to get this track position? And yeah, so and you talk about Mark Murphy kind of playing it safe, and I'm going to say playing it safe with an asterisk because, I mean, he's not rolling over for anybody. We saw Craig get by him, and he's just like, you know what? Not so fast. I'm going to go back after this thing. So we do have our first pit stop, though. It's going to be Jim Herrick here in the 40 car. So right now pitting, I'd say maybe a lap earlier than ideal, but I think, again, should be able to make it, but already a lap down just, again, due to the 20-second pace and pit road length and speed limit. So, yeah, so now, say for Jim, he needs to cycle through. Here comes the 72 Eric Schaus. Oh, he had to take a little bit of an aggressive move there. Wanted to make sure he doesn't get held up on entry. He jumps around Bill Colley. And this is Eric pitting on 47, coming to 48. So he's right on that number we just talked about. So now we'll watch to see, okay, who can go how much further, like Mark Murphy, Craig Forsyth, Sam Cosner and company. So this is where the strategy is going to be really intriguing to see.
We're starting to see some of these cars peel off one by one. Sam Cosner has just come in. I was watching the battle with Wagner and Cosner, and I'm shocked that Wagner kept going to the bottom line to try and pass him, and he really didn't try and find a way to go over and under through turn 1 and 2. It seemed like he was more comfortable to kind of run the inside there, but I think if he wants to really make a move, get going, I think he should really try and do the over-under and sort of enter high and come low. But a lot of it's going to, Wagner got held up a little bit but there by Edson. I think it was Edson, or it might have been Bill Colley leaving the pits. So Wagner had a little bit of a halted pit entry there, but it seems like he got in just fine. So it seems like most of the field's pitted now, but Craig, I believe, our fuel saver, as usual, has stayed out an extra lap or two.
Yep, Craig's made it to 51. He's in now. Edson Santos running some great field mileage in that number 20. Now he takes over the point as he's going to come through 3 and 4. He'll take the start-finish line now. Again, look at the timing and scoring. Look how many drivers now are trapped to let down. Here comes Edson. He's going to jump in. Joseph Morales is about to hit pit road as well. Actually, he's in as I speak. So, yeah, so that's going to complete the cycle. This will be everybody on the pit road, and then it's going to be all about who is able to get in and out of pit road the best. And we're waiting for that to finish up right now because, like I said, Edson's in. Craig's actually just now hit his stall. And so what Craig's going to be watching for is the 72 and the 69. I can tell you right now, Eric is ahead of the 69 of Mark Murphy. And then here comes Craig. He's going to start rolling out. And where is Eric Schaus? Right there. We'll see. Can Craig get those tires up to temp in time? No. Eric Schaus is up and around him. He's got to build up temps quick, though, because here comes Mark Murphy as well. He's got nice and warm tires.
Looks like Craig actually kind of won out a little bit there because he's right up behind Eric Schaus, who had started to pull a gap right before the pit stop there. So Murphy is still intact. He's not that far behind, but it's all about trying to maximize the fresh tires here. So how do you get yourself up there to battle with the guys ahead of you to make sure that you get clean air and you get the best car tools? And I'm not sure if Mark Murphy's figured that out yet, but also he's not very concerned with passing these guys. He just wants to make sure he's ahead of the guys behind him. And sure enough, the top 3 have seemed to pull away quite a bit from 4th on back.
Yeah, and that's for me watching right now. It's going to be watching the lap times because Nick Wheeler's, he's in a good spot. He's got a little bit of, maybe just a teeny bit of draft potentially, but he's got clean air in that front wing through the turns. And so last time by, he ran a 25 to the leader's 31. Craig ran the fastest lap of the race with a 19.12, so almost in the 18-second territory on lap times there. And again, this time runs a 17, so quick times for Craig. I think same thing. He's trying to use those slightly fresher tires now before everything starts to even out as he is going after Eric here. And again, you can see, though, he's going to run right on that yellow line there. Gets right up to that rear wing there of Schaus, but so far not able to make anything happen from it yet. As now Edson goes purple also with the 19.12, and here goes Craig.
Let's not discount Edson right now. He's our biggest mover of the race, going 3 spots from starting in 8th place up to 5th place right now, and he's knocking on the door for 4th as we speak. And who knows, Edson might have something up his sleeve here, and he's been one that's been on a tear lately, and his power rankings, if we were to actually do that in this series, would show that he is on the move and he knows exactly what's happening, and he wants to get himself up front as soon as he can.
Yeah, we got a great fight for us. I would go back and show Edson, but we have a really good fight here for the lead. Craig and Eric. Craig was ahead for a second. Eric crossed him over. Now Eric jumps ahead. Craig's going to cross him over as they head back into 3. And it's you see Mark Murphy's enjoying this fight in front because it's brought him right back into the fray. And once again here, Craig's able to take that clean air. Now he'll take the point once more. And now Mark Murphy's going to be kind of playing a guessing game. Okay, where's Craig going to go? Where's Eric going to go? As Eric's going to go for that crossover back on the 99 here as they enter 3 one more time.
I'm watching that battle that you were neglecting to watch up front there, and looks like Edson actually kind of lost a little bit of pace there for a moment. Matt Wagner got next to him, but Nick Wheeler continues to hold fourth spot, and Matt Wagner is actually looking on the high side. He may have listened to my advice there and tried something a little bit different, but Edson hasn't moved forward yet, but this battle continues from 4th to 6th place.
Yeah, we have 2 really good battles going on. I say, well, let's hop on board here with Mark Murphy because he's got a great view of this. These 2 just continually are crossing each other over. And again, I mean, there's, like we talked about on the championship side of things, I mean, Eric Schaus is obviously still going for the title, but again, he wants to win. You can tell Craig wants to win. And then Mark Murphy, I think right now, he's just sizing these 2 guys up. And while they've been doing that back and forth, we talked about Nick Wheeler being about 1.4, 1.5 seconds behind him. It's down to about 1.1 and actually closing even more now to about 1 second flat between him to Mark Murphy. So, yeah, so they're starting to creep back into the picture. And like you mentioned, Edson Santos, let's actually jump over to him because he's working over Nick Wheeler now, trying to get into that 4th position, get some of that clean air on that front wing of the 20 car. And like you said, he might have something for these guys as, again, you see there, had to try to figure out where to put the car. Matt gets a huge run out of 4, and now he's got to play defense immediately.
It's very much back and forth going on back here, and when those guys were racing, there's contact there.
20 is around, caution is out, and yeah, Matt was going for it, maybe drift up just a little bit. Oh, Edson's gonna, I was seeing if he can maybe get it woe down in time. I mean, regardless, he was gonna need a fast pair, but unfortunately, that's gonna be another big shot there. So unfortunately, contact between the two of them. Let's go back here. We'll take another look at this. And yeah, again, this is a really tough track to pass at, as we've seen, and it looked like all was going to be well, and I just think, unfortunately, just maybe a little bit of wash out of the 6. And I'm looking in front of Matt, and look where the 88 is. I don't know if he's going to get too much dirty air from him there. And yeah, you can just see it almost like a 4-wheel slide, and then yeah, it just gets right into that left rear of Edson, and almost able to throttle out of it there, but then right there just catches the outside wall with that left rear. And then you see there the 88 there, or sorry, the 0, I should say, of Sam Cosner able to avoid that. So that puts the caution out. We'll jump back live because pretty much the field all hitting pit road. Although I think we have some strategy takers here, which is always fun to see. It's going to be Nick Wheeler, Jim Herrick. They're going to stay out. Let's watch the battle off of pit road. Schaus will get the win there, and then it will be Forsyth over Murphy. But it's going to be Nick Wheeler, Jim Herrick. Looks like they're going to opt to stay out because right now nobody can make it to the end from here. So the only difference, of course, is maybe a shorter pit stop or, of course, going further. But we've already had one green flag pit stop, so put the track position into the hands of the 88 and the 40 now.
I agree totally with your interpretation of the incident there, Gael. It looks like Wagner got a little bit tight coming through there. Nothing really too egregious. Just two cars kind of met in the middle. And I think I was mentioning before the first pit stop how Wagner was using the bottom line a lot. And unfortunately, once you do that, you're burning that right side, both the front and the rear tires quite a bit there. And it's difficult really to maintain that. But if you kind of play around and try and save your right side tires a little bit more by going a little bit higher and trying to find some sort of clean air up there, it actually might be easier to make the pass, or at least get alongside going down to turn 3. It's difficult to do, but yeah, it's very interesting to see that the pit stops didn't really net so much difference. But I'm interested to see what Nick Wheeler, Jim Herrick are trying to pull off here, because if you say that everyone's got to do one more pit stop, the track position and the clean air mean everything, and that's something we've been talking about since the beginning of this race. So I think it's quite possible that we could see these guys maybe pull away, especially on lighter fuel. But again, we have the pace car coming down this long pit lane, and we're just waiting for the green flag to come out, which is always a little bit crazy.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just one of those things for the drivers, especially the leader for Nick. He's like, I want to go now and catch these guys off guard. But you can see he's waiting for that restart zone. Now he's got control of it, though. And now he's down and away. You can see behind Jim Herrick roll him, and Schaus was ready. You can see again right on the rear wing. But again, waited till after the start-finish line. Now he'll try, I would presume, try to make a move. He's going to peek underneath. But again, these guys behind, they've all got cold tires. They got to build those temperatures up. And there goes Craig. He's going to try to take a look and take advantage of that little hiccup by the 72 there.
Look at what Nick Wheeler saw in his rearview mirror. No one behind him, and he's saying, okay, let me take this light fuel and just take off. And hopefully that kind of pays off for him. We'll have to see if that actually pays off in any sense. But it's getting very, very feisty here with these guys that just pit. Craig, Eric, and Mark all racing with cold tires, full fuel, and trying to see which of the three of them get the best advantage.
Yeah, and in that fighting, it's even better for Nick, because he's got about 8/10 on Jim Herrick. Herrick's got about 7/10 on these guys, like you said, because they are fighting tooth and nail. Watch the 69. Can he clear Schaus? He does clear, so now he's going to have that advantage. So unfortunately for Eric Schaus there, he drops 2 spots on this restart so far. Matt Wagner now right behind him in the 6. So now we'll have to keep an eye on these guys again. These are the guys with the fresher tires, but like you mentioned, heavier on fuel tires now should be building those temps up. But like you said, for Nick Wheeler, he is running away right now. He has now got a second over that number 40. And that's what Nick needs to do right now, is he just needs to run and hide, basically. As last time by, Craig and Mark Murphy both ran in the 19.0607 bracket. less than a tenth of a second away from getting into that 18-second window. So here goes Craig on Jim.
I think one of those things is that the tires will pay off after a while, but you have to get through that stage where you heat the tires up and go through all the stages. And although you have a little bit heavier fuel than, say, Nick Wheeler up front, eventually once the tires hook up and everything, you're going to start to run faster laps than those guys up front that have less fuel but a little more tire wear. So it won't be too long before we catch Nick Wheeler from these guys back here, especially if their tires heat up to a certain level where they can get up there and start running a lot faster laps. But it's a great feeling for Nick Wheeler right now. I think it's a net positive for him, someone who's kind of running in the dirty air in the mid-pack there. Try something different and see what he could do to get himself up front. And it seems to be working. And even for Jim Herrick, even though he's losing a couple spots right now, I think it was a net positive for him to try and hang with the guys up front and try something a little bit different, because if you just do what the guys ahead of you do, you're not going to get any spots that way.
No, exactly right. And right now, like you said, yeah, Nick Wheeler's a net 5 spots ahead. Jim Herrick's a net 5 spots ahead. So I'm calling this a win for both of them. Nick Wheeler's been able to kind of hold steady now at about that 0.8 of a second margin over Craig. It kind of, every so often, Craig will gain maybe a tenth or two. This time it was about a tenth and a half, it looks like. So Craig is closing that gap, but again, as he gets closer, that dirty air is going to get worse. And again, we're also talk about the fuel mileage. I mean, we're not that far away from the window, probably about another 20 laps or so to get to that lap 45 mark or so, like I said, or 45 to go, I should say, mark. And that would be the magic window to get to the end. So again, I think for Nick Wheeler, you've kind of made your bed for having to pit earlier. So I think you go all in. I think you say, you know what, I'm just going to go full rich, make sure I can get to that 45 to go. And then from there, as soon as I'm in that window, or as soon as I basically have to pit for fuel, I jump in, but don't save anything. Just go early, make those guys respond. Obviously, you have to hope the cautions fall your way. But yeah, I want to see what Nick can do in this 88 car. I think he's definitely got something to try to pull off the podium here tonight.
It looks like Craig got to Nick, and he can't do anything right now. So his lap times probably have stabilized based on whatever Nick has going on. Eventually, Nick may get past for the lead, but this is definitely a net positive, like we were saying. And Jim Herrick fell to 5th place, and he is not able to be passed by anyone behind him either. So the tires hit sort of an equalizing point. Once you run about 10 to 12 laps or so, it's very difficult to have any sort of tire quote-unquote advantage. So now it's just going to be based on driver ability and trying your best to make your car a little bit wider to hold the guys behind you back. And that's what Jim Herrick's doing right now, Matt Wagner. Jim is still got passed by a bunch of guys, but it's very difficult to make any more passes. And although Nick is under pressure right now, I think he's going to have a hard time being passed by the rest of the guys behind him that make their way through. And Jim still holds on to 5th place, and now Matt is under pressure from cars behind.
Yeah, Sam Cosner's right there. Edson's right back. Right, look at the recovery for Edson as well. Of course, had to take the fast pair. Pretty much restarted dead last, and now he's right back up into that top 10 all the way up back up to 8th. So, no, really, really good job for him. And you mentioned, yeah, Craig was able to get by Nick there. But again, Craig was one of those few guys that was actually able to pass some of the guys in that first run on equal footing. So Craig's obviously dialed in some settings that he really likes on the ARBs, the weight jackers, and all that. So yeah, so Craig he's pretty locked in. I say he's pretty well adjusted. That sounds like car-wise for what he's got going. And so yeah, so now he's gonna try to do the same here and probably just try to run away a little bit. Maybe run just fast enough to, same thing, save a little bit of fuel while still being able to hold on to this lead. But like you said, Mark's gotten to Nick Wheeler, but right now hasn't been able to do anything with him.
I'm watching Nick Wheeler's line through 1 and 2, and I'm actually watching him in the dirty air, Craig, a little bit, and he's losing almost no time. So now I'm starting to wonder if the track temperature is not that troublesome, that these guys are having a lot of tire wear, and it's really just a matter of the dirty air in general, because Nick Wheeler is on 20 to 25 laps older tires than the guys around him, and he's really not losing any time whatsoever. So it's really going to be a matter of which driver is best, and it's always good when it comes down to the driver ability.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what you always want to see in these situations. So, what we haven't had a chance to do is before we get to those final pit stops, we got to run through the field, show off our wonderful drivers and paint schemes. As right now, Craig Forsyth currently our leader in that number 99. We just talked about him, obviously, from this restart on. Nick Wheeler there in the 88. He's 6th in 2nd. And then outside front row starting spot for Mark Murphy, our points leader. He sits currently in the 3rd spot. Our pole sitter, Eric Schaus, right behind him there in 4th. And again, those two started 1-2 at Iowa, and the result was Mark Murphy winning, Eric Schaus in 2nd. So like I said, Eric's going to want to try to flip that by a spot. In the 5th spot is that number 6 of Matt Wagner there. Then Sam Cosner in the 00 right behind him there in 6th. Edson Santos again working on that recovery drive from the earlier contact. He now jumps up into 7th. He has gotten around this car here. That's the 18 of Jeff Hysong there. And then behind Jeff is Jim Herrick again. Jim was one of those that stayed out. And I'd say I don't think this worked as well as Jim was hoping for, and that's just because he started off in that dirty air like we've been talking about. So unfortunately,
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Jim did touch the apron there through turns 1 and 2, so he was running right behind Matt Wagner, and unfortunately he lost a few spots just due to a little slide a couple laps ago. If you want to go check on that after you're done.
Oh, no, that's perfect. So, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, unfortunately, that drops Jim a little bit there. So he'll still be one of those that has to pit a little earlier. Joseph Morales right now, he's up 2 spots, but now he's under pressure there from Casey Pahutsky looking to his inside. Can't quite make it happen. So Joseph still holding on to that top 10. And then now Casey Pahutsky, he's under attack there from Frank Irwin Jr. in that Carvana car to his outside. And so right now those are the 12 cars left on track. Unfortunately, we did have an earlier retirement there with Bill Cawley after the restart. And so that leaves us with 12 of 13. But while we're going through the field, though, Eric Schaus around Mark Murphy, and then also they've kind of run away a little bit. The top 2 have been able to sneak away from Eric Schaus here as well. So, and then here comes the strategy call, though. Edson Santos, he's short pitting, and here comes Jim Herrick.
Yeah, Jim Herrick might have lost a little bit of tire life in that slide there, but he's going to come in and get some new boots right now. One thing I wanted to also mention during your little rundown there was that Eric Schaus did get by Mark Murphy. So Schaus is now 2nd in line of those non-pitter guys, and you could definitely tell that Schaus was working really hard to try and get a move done there. But Murphy, if you remember, he is trying his best to just finish the race, and he may not feel as confident going through this race right now, but if Schaus wants to take a spot, I think he might actually have something for Forsyth if the race continues how it is.
Saw right there, the 88 Nick Wheeler. He was trying to get everything there. Oh, almost contact, and this is a dangerous spot there. Here's Mark Murphy. Now he hits pit road. That was almost a very bad spot. Matt was trying to pass. Mark Murphy was trying to pit. We saw Edson Santos rolling out of pit road. There was a lot going on there in a very short amount of time. And so luckily everybody's able to stay off of one another, but you know there was some hearts in their throat right there at that point. So, but yeah, so now it's all about when do you react? Because again, these guys pitted at 66, so they can go another, 10, 15 plus laps here. Again, we talked about that 45-ish window, so to me that says about, lap 110 or so. So we got kind of 2 strategies now, the kind of the undercut versus the overcut. And here comes Craig. He's going to try to get around this number 88 there of Nick Wheeler. And so for Nick, this is tough because you want to fight him here because right now you were 1 down. Now you're 2 down in that number 88. And then here goes Mark Murphy. Mark's going to fall down 2 laps as well. So for Craig here, this is great for Craig because he clears the 88. He's got clean air back on that front wing. This puts Eric Schaus down in a tough position if he can't make the lap time to get around these other 2 that just came out of pit road. At what point do you say, all right, I got to jump in early to kind of potentially minimize that time loss?
Well, that's exactly what Mark Murphy just did, right? That was a very, very early pit stop for him. He pit under that caution along with everyone else. So I think he's putting a lot of trust in the fact that there's not going to be another caution right now. And I think he was hoping that he would pit and get some clean air so he didn't have to run in the dirty air for the rest of the race. But unfortunately, he put himself out on the track right around everybody else. So I'm not really sure if that strategy was the right one. I think he just wanted to get the last pit stop done because he can make it to the end from here. Meanwhile, Nick Wheeler, who pit about 5 or 6 laps ago, has pit and has now been
He's
the
got
front
back
car.
around, yeah.
He's taken the lead, and now he has all the clean air, which is putting Craig Forsyth in a spot. So you're right. It's two different strategies. Those guys that pit about 6 or 7 laps ago. Then you have Mark Murphy, who did his last stop and wants to just kind of race it out from here. Matt Wagner also has visited pit lane, so he's following kind of the Mark Murphy strategy. So we'll see how he comes out in relative to Murphy. I imagine Murphy's going to get by. But I don't think this is going to bring everyone into the pit lane, but I find it very interesting to see that these guys have made their bed now, saying, okay, I'm going to go 2 laps down, and we'll see how the chips may fall. It could work, or something else could happen randomly on track.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is right now, other than the guys that haven't pitted, Nick Wheeler right now is the only one that's in a good spot for a wave round to get back on the lead lap. Everybody else here, Mark Murphy's 2 down, Matt Wagner.
I think Wheeler's actually another lap down because he had pit and lost 2 laps, so he's
still 1 down,
lap
yeah.
down.
So and now Mark Murphy's working on getting himself from 2 down to 1 down, and so same thing. So now if there were to be a caution at this point, they would be able to stay out when the leaders pit, and then they would be able to cycle to the front. So, but yeah, you can see right now. Look at Craig there. I don't think wanted to let Mark go, but had really no choice there. And so now Craig's got that dirty air. Now Eric Schaus, this is his time here. He needs a push, and you saw right there. Here comes Craig. Said, "All right, they both got by me. I got to come in now." He sees the pace difference. Here comes Eric Schaus. He's going to react to that as well. And big lockup by Craig there, trying to get everything he can. Eric looked like he got it nicely there as well, though. And so that's going to cycle things now over to Jeff Heisong, who's yet to pit, along with Casey Pahutsky and Frank Irwin Jr. So these guys, I think, just let's stretch it out. Take the gamble. You never know how it's going to shake out.
Very interesting strategy. Something that we haven't seen in previous races, that everybody's kind of pulling everyone in one by one on the early side of the last stop. So Murphy pit, Wagner pit, Cosner pit, and who was the last one? Was it
Irwin still needs to pit.
Edson pit as well. And these guys all are pitting very early. We're going to run to the end of the race here, but usually we see it the other way around, right? Gael, if I'm not mistaken, that everyone wants to stay out as long as they can and try and run that second to last stop very long with just a splash at the end. So this is a very, very bizarre strategy we're seeing here tonight.
And right now, I'm going to say big winner at the moment. Once things complete, big winner is Craig Forsyth. There you go. He's in. He's gotten ahead of the 88. He's ahead of the 69. Eric Schaus, unfortunately, he is behind both those guys. So the strategy did not go in Eric's favor. But again, all these guys are still 1 lap down right now. There are 2 cars on the lead lap because they still need to pit. But right now, these other guys, they still have to hold their breath because if anybody makes any mistake right now, they're all going to wind up restarting behind Jeff Heisong and Frank Irwin Jr. because they still have yet to pit in this race. Here comes Jeff.
I was going to say this is definitely a Jeff Heisong kind of strategy. He's not usually a front runner in the top 5 or so. So why not try and extend this stint as long as you can? Unfortunately, it looks like they've decided to come in and do the last stop. I believe they could have gone another 10, 12 laps or so. So why not? You've already kind of stayed out this long. Why not try and see if you can extend it as long as you possibly can, and then hope for some sort of caution. You have the whole field pitting the lap down, but perhaps the fuel mileage on these cars was a little bit less than we thought of, and they had to come in anyway.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe everybody was running full rich there at that point. So, and I can tell you that a couple laps ago, Eric Schaus ran the fast lap, and remember I talked about almost touching the 18-second bracket as Eric's trying to get underneath there. Eric ran a 19.00 lap for the fast lap of the race, so he was within thousandths of making an 18-second lap. And like I said, he's got to take the aggression now. He's got to find a way to get around Mark Murphy. You see, here comes the crossover. Look at that move by Eric, and he should be able to get ahead of the 69 here, entering 3. Now it's all about the dirty air in the 88 in front of him, but he will safely clear Mark Murphy. And again, since this isn't for the win of the race at this point, like you said, damage limitations for Mark. Doesn't need to take those big risks. He's got over 2 seconds back to Edson there in 5th. So right now he's got to let Eric do all the hard work and basically put his car at risk over his own.
That I'm glad you had the camera on that move that Eric Schaus did on Mark Murphy there. That is the exact move I was hoping that Wagner was going to do on Santos for many, many laps there before that contact. Just come high, swing low, and once that bottom lane opens up, as long as you're pinned down on that yellow line, that should be an easy pass. So that is how you do it around here at Phoenix. If you really, really want to risk it and set the car tools in such a way that you are able to exit on the bottom line going down the back straightaway towards turn 3, as he just did with Nick Wheeler there. That's the way to do it. So Eric Schaus seems to be kind of on a tear right now, and who knows, if he gets up to Craig Forsyth, he may have enough tire life to do something similar there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he and Craig are on equal tires. A great fight here with Sam Cosner, Edson Santos. Sam's got there, just couldn't quite complete the pass. Edson's gonna there get the nose, and you see there immediately goes kind of to the middle. You saw how tight Sam got there on once he got into that dirty air, and that cost him a couple tenths right off the bat. But now he's got to regroup and try to make a move back on that 20. And yeah, I'm watching lap times right now between Craig and the 72 of Eric Schaus. And at the moment, it looks like Craig was a little bit quicker again. However, Craig's starting to get into some traffic here. And again, these guys are not obligated to roll over for Craig. Right now, this is the tail end of the lead lap here. Casey Bahutsky there, Frank Irwin Jr. They want to stay in this lead lap here because, again, anything can happen if a caution comes out. The timing of the pit stop strategies, if leaders decide to pit, they might stay and say, hey, I want to gamble on this track position. So they could go from 13th or 12th to 1st in that kind of a call. So this is going to be tough for Craig now because, again, he's right back into that dirty air. But I'm looking at lap times, though. Craig is just clicking off really, really good laps. I'm wondering if Eric may have used all the good out of his tires, just fighting so hard to get around Nick and Mark there on that last run.
Well, now's not the time to save tires. Now's the time to go. So whatever Eric is going to use, he's going to use to make sure he gets up to him and even put up a little bit of fight. But Gael, look at the lap count. We're just about 15 laps to go here, and this race could be over in 5 to 7 minutes. If everything goes well, this race has really just kind of flown by.
Yeah, no, like I said, when you're clicking sub 20-second laps, and these guys have run super clean tonight, these laps click by super quickly. I'm gonna jump back though because we got once again here goes Sammy. He's got a good run on Edson. He's gonna look low here through the dogleg. Couldn't quite get there. Now he's gonna see if he does the over under like you talked about. Enters high. And there's the big arc down to the bottom. Can't quite get it. Edson had a really good 1 and 2 there. But yeah, Sam keeping a ton of pressure on Edson here. Just trying to keep a little bit of front wing in that clean air there to try to keep that nose planted. And while they continue to scrap a little bit, that's bringing Matt Wagner closer into that picture. Because again, this right now is a battle for the top 5 here. So still a lot to vie for these guys. And I can tell you, Craig's still trying to get around Casey Bahutsky.
Yeah, I'm watching the battle here for the lead, and Craig is still putting up really good lap times compared to everyone behind him. So he may have reached the back of the field, and they may be quote-unquote slower, but they're still running decent lap times as part of the backfield here. Schaus is only able to do 19.3, which is only 3/10 off the fast lap of the race. Craig is also doing 19.3, so these guys up ahead of him that are doing around 19.4s, 19.5s, they're not that far off the fastest lap of the race. So no one's really holding anyone up here. Everyone's just kind of going around in a big circle if you want to kind of draw everyone going around the same pace. But it just so happens that Craig seems to have caught the back of the field. He's already put Jim Herrick a lap down. That should make it very difficult for Eric Schaus to do anything right now. But as long as Craig puts some lap cars between them, I think he should have this race pretty much completed.
Yeah, he just needs to make no mistakes and not get caught up in trying to force the issue around anybody because, again, he's got a second to play with. Right now, the fight between... Oh, we got trouble in the back there. I think that was it's the 88 of Nick Wheeler. He stays pointing in the right direction, so right now we will stay green. He was in a podium spot. That's a heartbreaker there for him. I'm going to go back. We'll see if we can find what happened to Nick here. As you can see him through 1 and 2. It's got a big slide to it. Oh man, that's a huge slide. Just unfortunately couldn't quite hang on to it and able to just kind of keep it down there. But I mean, imagine Mark Murphy there. I mean, his heart's in his throat in that situation. So We'll jump back live, though. Nick is just now limping into pit road, but again, we do stay green as we now it's 7 to go here.
That actually was a very similar spin to what Jim Herrick had during your rundown earlier, except Jim did touch the apron a little bit, but I think there was a little too much weight jacker in there that got the car loose. Unfortunate for Nick, because he seemed to be on for a great finish, and what a great strategy call for him to stay out there. But he'll live and learn here and hopefully come out with something in a future race here, because he's definitely deserving to be up front.
Yeah, no, I mean, we saw he got the strategy to get up front, and then from there he was holding his own. So, yeah, that's a tough one because, again, he was in a podium spot. It does now move a couple guys up, move Sam Cosner now into that top 5, but now he has got a mirror full of Matt Wagner in the 6, and so he's going to have about 5 clean laps here to try to hold Matt back at bay. And watching the margins right now, it still holds at about a second between Eric and Craig. Right now, this is by far the closest battle on track. Unfortunately, you can see Sam's kind of fallen off the back of Edson by about 8/10 here. But like I said, right now, he's just got to stay fully focused and trying to keep that 6 at bay. Matt's going to get to the inside here, but again, we've seen the outside has very good momentum, so he's just got to try to keep that thing wound up. But Matt's going to send it into 1 and 2. Let's try to slide back up. Here comes the crossover. Yep, here comes Sam going to try to get that spot back.
That was a great crossover there. Sam kind of baited him into taking that low line, but Sam's like, nope, I got a lot of turn in this car still to try and take that low line. I think he almost had it there if he didn't spook Wagner off that line. But yeah, we only got 3 to go here. So this race is really kind of paying, it's settling itself out from the top spots here. So these guys hang on. This will be the finishing order, and what a great race we had tonight.
Yeah, it's been a really good fight. You can see Craig still is right behind the number 44, Frank Irwin Jr., as he catches the white flag now. Eric has been closing, but again, it's not enough at this point. I think Craig knows it. That's why he hasn't forced the issue on that number 48 car in front of him. And so as they come through the backstretch here for the final time, got to just get through 3 and 4. And at the line, it is going to be Craig Forsyth getting the win here at Phoenix over Eric Schaus. And then our points leader, Mark Murphy, going to bring it home in 3rd position. And then Edson Santos, great recovery to get 4th. And then Matt Wagner does hold off of Sam Cosmer to grab that top 5. But, man, a lot going on there tonight. Like I said, a lot of strategy. Pitting early, pitting late. What do you do? But in the end, it's going to be Craig that's going to pull off the win here tonight at Phoenix.
And we have Edson Santos, after that incident with Matt Wagner, coming out with the top 5 in this race. I'm sure he didn't expect that after he was finding himself backwards.
That's a great recovery.
That was a great recovery drive, exactly. So 4 spots gained for him and 4 spots gained for Joseph Morales, another guy we didn't really talk much about during this race, but hung in there and took advantage of some guys having some disadvantage throughout the run there. Comes out with a P8.
Yep, exactly right. So we'll pull up all those final results as we speak, as it will be Craig Forsyth getting the win by about 6.5 tenths over Eric Schaus. Then Mark Murphy, they're 4 seconds back. Edson, like you mentioned, they're 7 seconds after that recovery drive over Matt Wagner in 5th. Then Sam Cosner, Jeff Hysong, Joseph Morales, and Frank Irwin Jr. all finishing on that lead lap. And then you get Casey Behutsky, Jim Herrick a lap down. Nick Wheeler saw, unfortunately, that contact at the very, very end. Again, that's just a heartbroken on that one there. As you see, also, this is one of our first times we get to do it. Here's Craig Forsyth rolling that car into victory lane. I was talking to Pierce. It's like, if you win, you got to get in there. And here comes Craig parking that number 99 right in the perfect spot there.
Look at that, just measure of perfection. And
he's going to try to get it a little bit better.
I think he practiced it before we did this race tonight, so we'll have to ask him about that.
I saw a couple guys playing around with it, but yeah, it's a great shot right there. And that number 99, just for good measure, going to do a little extra burnout there in victory lane. But a great job by Craig. And so what we got to do, some drivers here tonight, Andrew, and that is going to be those top 3. And it's going to start off with our top 2 in the point standings coming in tonight. So again, points won't change a ton after this one. But we'll start off with a Mark Murphy here in just a moment. So I think he's getting all of his stuff situated. So I want to make sure we are able to actually talk to him once we pull him in. So we'll give him just a moment here. So I don't know if you see what I see, but I say he's got everything muted, so he might be having to take care of something real quick.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and get everything ready, though. And let's see.
Good.
I think he is ready to party, so we're going to pull in our third place finisher, and that is Mark Murphy. And Mark, I
can't hear you, Gael.
Uh-oh.
Hold on.
Hold on a second. Working on stuff.
Hold on a second. My microphone or my earphones come undone.
He may have been racing without a crew chief or a spotter, Andrew.
He could do it. If anyone could do it, he can.
All right, I got it. My earplugs come undone. I'm sorry about that.
Well, I mean, you got to be careful when you take those helmets off. You can't just yank them out, man. But, man, I mean, a tough race, obviously. We've always, of course, talked about the kind of the risk versus rewards, where you are at the points at this point, kind of the closing couple races. You want to, of course, still do what you do best and run fast and be up front. Obviously, you kind of have to pick and choose the battles, but the one part that stood out to me was the final pit stop. If you put money on when people were going to pit, I would have never said the short pit was going to be one thing I saw tonight. What was the game plan on, and why did you decide to jump in there early?
Yeah, so first of all, congratulations to Craig and Eric. They're awfully fast. The calculus was new tires were worth about 3/10 for 10 laps or so. So why not come on and get them? I needed about 8 gallons to finish the race. So once the window was open, once I had 6 gallons left, we were burning up the right rears pretty good. So I wanted a little bit less weight. So I waited again until I had another gallon out, and then I stopped. I was kind of watching Nick a little bit. He stopped. He came out. He was real fast, and I didn't want to lose a bunch of time. And I feel like I'm in a position to gamble a little bit. Darn near worked, but I didn't have for whatever reason I didn't have the long run car tonight, and that's because you can add dumb to old and slow. I ran the wrong line for 3/4 of the race, so that's what got me in the end. But like I said, kudos to Craig and Eric. That was fun.
Okay, so my question is, you were kind of flailing about okay, I think I want to just keep my points lead. I don't really want to do anything crazy because this is not my best track. What exactly was your mindset, especially when you saw some positions ahead of you that were available? Did you really want to try and fight what you could, or did you just say, okay, nope, I'm not going to go side by side with this person in case some incident happens and just let the person go? Was that your mindset, or did you actually want to try and race as best you could to get the best you could?
I mean, I wanted to win a race, and there was there were a couple of chances to do it, fighting with Craig and Eric. I mean, I got by Eric early and led quite a bit of that first stint. So that was important, not only for bonus points, but to try to deny Eric the most laps led, which he didn't get that. That went to Craig. So that was important. And no, I mean, I wanted to win a race. Like I said, for whatever reason, because I was because I was running turn. Is it 1 and 2 now that they've
we
screwed
did the
up
same
Phoenix?
thing. I'm so happy you are too.
Who knows, Mark? We've spent the whole race just trying to pick out what side of the track is what. And I know during last night's Indy Open broadcast, you were saying that Gary likes to call it the good Phoenix and the bad Phoenix, and you spend the whole race trying to figure out what side of the track you're on. So all I could picture in my head was say that the front straight's the back straight, which is really such a back mental gymnastics way of doing it.
Whatever the open end of the track is, I entered too shallow for 110 laps, and then I finally figured it out, and I went, holy smokes, I'm 2/10 faster. But by then, the race was almost over. I guess I should have watched Phil closer last night, but all in all, good night. Thank Indy Alliance and P1 Broadcasting, Admin Box, Black Magic Studios, Gael and Andrew. You guys do a heck of a job, and we got 2 more to go. and I think Giles got the points up. We're 71 up on Schaus and 83 on Wags. I think we're the only three that now mathematically have a shot as long as I make a start. So we'll see y'all in Kentucky. I like Kentucky.
It is looking good, and yeah, like you said, he gained a whopping 4 points on you tonight. So I say for a race that Andrew mentioned that maybe you weren't feeling the best about, I'm going to call that a pretty good success overall. And
if it was Legacy Phoenix, I'd be for it. But for whatever reason, man, the new Phoenix and open wheel cars, it's so tough to. It's a stock car track now, and it's so tough to pass. And I wish they'd have left it alone, to tell you the truth. But
oh yeah, we definitely vented about that as well.
You can reconfigure the grandstands all you want. I don't care, but leave the racetrack alone. It was just fine the way it was. But anyway, go talk to Schaus and Forsyth. They deserve it.
All right, great job, Mark. Look forward to seeing you those last two races, man.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I mean, he said we have to, so let's go ahead and jump over to our runner-up here tonight, and that is going to be the number 72 of Eric Schaus. And Eric, I mean, it was definitely not for a lack of effort. Obviously, the last pit stop probably didn't quite go to plan for you coming out behind a couple guys there, especially I'm sure seeing Craig ahead of them after the cycle. But so my first question is, if you're able to get your fastest lap back, what would you differently to gain 1/1000th of a second? Because your fast lap was a 19.000. And I mentioned a couple times in the broadcast saying, like, they might hit an 18-second lap here. I mean, take us through the night, and I'm obviously tongue-in-cheek on the fast lap, but I mean, just take us through the night and kind of how you're able to make the strategies that you wanted to do there.
That's pretty good. I didn't realize it was so close. Yeah, I mean, it was a good race. I can't be upset about a second place. I would have liked the win. But, Craig was just crazy fast today. And then on top of that, I think even if I kept up with them on pace, which I think I was doing at times, his pit stops were just incredible. He picked up a second and a half on the first pit stop. And then that was the whole reason I went in with him on the second one, just to gain some time. And I was about a second faster on my second pit stop. But then, unfortunately, I got stuck behind those two lap cars that he just beat out. So it was perfect for him. And I was faster. It was the right thing to do, I think, pit behind him. But unfortunately, I caught the lap cars right there in the middle. So from there, I think it was Craig's race to lose, and he just drove a great race.
Eric, it seemed like you were the one guy who can do that over-under slide through turn 1 and 2, going around the pit entry there, because that's turn 1 and 2. Let's get that straight before we start.
Is that the sharp turn or the sweeper?
That's the sweeper going
okay,
around.
The sweeper. Okay, that's how I know them.
Entry, yes.
Okay.
We're making kind of a joke now about what turn is what, but yeah. So it seemed like you were able to kind of hang on the rear wing there, going through turn 1 and 2, which unfortunately led to that caution early, or about halfway through the race or so. But you seem to master that over/under move. Is that a very difficult thing to do when you pass? I believe it was Wheeler, and then I think it was Murphy first and then Wheeler. So you seem to have what it took to make that move there when not a lot of cars could do it. So how difficult was it to maintain your tools in order to get that pass done?
I mean, that's really what it was. It was having confidence in the car, because the right rear would get hot going through that turn, and you could loop it coming out. So I think people were afraid to keep it pinned, maybe. If I had to, I would lift a tiny bit early, and then the exit was absolutely fine the whole way through. So it was really just being confident in the car. I put a little bit of, is it negative weight jacker? The jacker that makes it tighter, makes the car understeer a little bit more. Yeah. So I actually put a little bit of negative in there because it wasn't hurting my time, and I could make the corner fine. So I just did that to protect my right rear and feel confident in the car, and that's what really let me just kind of put the car wherever I needed to.
Well, I'll say it worked very well, like I said. And yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, Craig is just an outright monster on pit entry. I mean, I've watched him when he streams his races, and just watching it, and watching here too, where it's like there's no way, and then he gets a woe down somehow. So that's a tough guy to jump around in the pit stop cycle. But again, I mean, you gave it everything you had there. It was really impressive watching you make the moves that you did. Obviously, you and Matt had, or sorry, you and Mark had a couple back and forths where you were leading, he got around you, you got back around him, and so yeah, it was a lot of fun watching you guys fight it out for the lead of that race early on, and then yeah, going for it there at the end. So they said there's still 2 more to go. You never know how it goes. Let's say people are already trying to pre-congratulate Mark, and Mark's like, nope, don't. It's not over yet. So if you want to put any jinxes on him, you can still definitely do that. But Eric, I got to give you the floor, man. Any thanks and shouts for that runner-up tonight, sir?
Yeah, thanks. I think Mark does have it shy of probably 2 crashes out of him. I think he's got this one. Had a poor showing at Pocono last week, so that sealed my fate, I think. And with him finishing third, or either one ahead or one behind me every race, there's not a lot I can do. So we'll do the last 2 races, see how it goes. But yeah, thanks to you guys in the broadcast booth. Thanks to Area 51. Thanks to my wife and daughter who are not watching. But yeah, thanks to everybody out there that is. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll get your little one. We'll get her a tablet that has YouTube only for Green White Checkered TV. That way she can watch.
She'll love it.
I'll make sure we get that for the next Christmas present. But as I say, obviously I've known your wife for a little bit from other broadcasts, so definitely give her our best. But yeah, great job though tonight, Eric, and look forward to seeing you go for the remaining 2 races for that title.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Andrew, got one left to chat with, and you see the camera already knows. It's like, hey, let's go to victory lane here, and we're gonna get that car over there as we get to chat with him. And that is going to be Craig Forsyth. And I was reading through the chats a little earlier, Andrew, and I think I may have found Craig's key to victory. So I got to go up and find it again here. But basically, I think he lost about 3 pounds of mucus was the official decision. They're trying to get over last week's, but we can get a longer interview from you now, Craig. I'll say because you can actually talk again.
I could talk slightly better than a week ago. No, it has been a rough week. So I am feeling much better, but still not 100%, that's for sure. But thus I'm still not streaming because no one wants to watch an hour and a half of someone coughing every 10 seconds. But no, it was a good race tonight. It was too bad we had the small field, but man, everyone was competitive. I mean, up until I think the second pit cycle, we were all really close with each other. And my God, you could not get away from Eric, could not get away from Mark. I mean, anytime trying to at the first stint there, Eric was out in the lead, and after a while of following, once I was sure I was good with my fuel number, tried battling a bit with Mark to get by him, and he was having none of it. And you could get by a guy, and then they would just immediately get right back past you again. So I was having to come up with other ways of getting ahead of people, and that was by having really fast pit stops and cycling out ahead of everyone.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually what you thought was the better move. Was it an overcut or an undercut kind of thing? But it seemed like your pit entry and your pit exit were the fastest through the field. So do you think that was what measured you higher than everyone else, was making sure you got into the pits faster and out of the pits faster than everyone? Or was it actually doing a different kind of strategy to do an overcut or undercut?
Well, no, I knew when based on the pit cycle on the last one there that Mark had to come out ahead of me and start to put distance on me to end up being ahead of me once I pitted, and they came out behind me. So at that point, I just basically was staying out until Mark finally passed me. And that was the point I knew that when I went in for my pit cycle, I would still come out a second or two ahead of them. I think it was 2.5 or 3 seconds. But I knew with the buffer I'd had at that point that it made this, it made it safer to stay out longer on the overcut, even though I wasn't going to be faster at that point, just because I knew how much farther up the track he needed to be to gain enough time for when I pitted to come out ahead of me. So that's why the second he pitted, the second Mark got by me, it was like, all right, now it's time to pit. to protect that, because once he got past me, he was going to be, if I'd gone 5 or 6 more laps, then he would have passed me in the pit cycle.
Were you ever worried at all about the strategy that Wheeler and Herrick did, that they may have kind of outrun you or done something a little bit different to try and get themselves out front, in an effort to try and, like, at that point during the caution, everyone had one pit stop left, so Wheeler and Herrick stayed out. Wheeler was able to pull away a little bit. Did you ever find a spot where you may have said, "Oh wow, these guys have done something a little bit different to try and get ahead of me"?
Well, they were on the original cycle, the original strategy that I was as well. Is the 2-stop strategy. That's why I went to, I think, like lap 52 on the first stint. So with Jim staying out, I knew what that stint was capable of, but I also was pretty sure they were going to have to save a bit of fuel to get it done. So once Jim came in, I knew Jim wasn't going to be able to, he wasn't going to be able to make it at full tilt. He was having to save fuel even at that point to try and make the number. But I was once Nick pitted in the lap after that, that's when I knew that, I was good at that point. He would, even if he was going to be able to make the fuel to get to the end, he wasn't going to be able to make the fuel and keep me behind him. So that's where I had, that bit of confidence. That I also knew that towards the end there, as long as everyone was stuck in traffic, when I came out on my final pit stop, I would have the freshest tires and be able to just go. So that's really what we did. And then at that point, it was just a matter of watching I can't remember what ended up happening to Nick. I know I saw him on the down on the apron wheeling her home. So I assume he got together with someone or clipped the wall or something. So took that out of the equation. Unfortunate. Would have been a good battle to see, but. Yeah, no, and then at that point it was just making sure we brought the car home, not making any dangerous move. With the lap traffic, didn't want to threaten them. As long as I still had a 3-second buffer, I let that get eat away while those guys did a little bit of battling. Then once I think they got about a second and a bit apart from each other, it was like, all right, now I need to keep putting more cars between myself and Eric to make sure that we brought this home in first.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, for Nick, yeah, got loose out of 2, the sweeper turn. And yeah, caught the inside wall, unfortunately, because yeah, he was having a really, really good run as well. I said I'm gonna put the.
I was just, it was actually it's easy to do getting loose out of 2 if you leave your, like, because I was using hyperjacker to do turn 1. And anytime I forgot to set my weight jacker back low again, I paid for it in turn 2. It started getting squirrely loose. So yeah, if that's what happened, if the weight jacker was set for his turn 1, when he went into turn 2, I can fully believe got loose and went to the inside.
All right. So based on that, so you were changing your weight jacker between the 2 sets of turns.
Yeah, you need a higher weight jacker to carry the speed in 1, and other than that, you don't want as much weight jacker anywhere else on the track.
Wow, that's wild. I wouldn't have the brain capacity to do all that.
Learn something new there, Gail.
But I'm gonna call your bluff though. I think you decided not to stream that way. They couldn't learn your pit entry secrets because, like I said, you were a monster getting in there. But no, I mean, Craig, obviously, definitely, of course, hope that you start feeling back 100% because I know you've got some celebrating to do, and so you get to do it in style here in a couple weeks' time as well. So definitely,
you're off to Long Beach, baby.
I know you're gonna have a good fun over there. But before we let you go, keep recovering and then get your luggage packed and everything over there. Definitely got to give you the floor here for any thanks and shouts for that win this evening, sir.
Nope. Yep. I got. Hang on.
He's just trying to pretend like he's sick that way for the stream.
Wow, that was a lot of coffee. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
No, I got to thank Jim over at 40 Racewear, and yeah, the strat didn't work out for him in the end. Unfortunate, but he's a continual sponsor for the team, the car, Indycar racing on iRacing. He's a good supporter for esport racing all over the place. So good on him for supporting the leagues, supporting Area 51. And you guys over at Green White Checker, Kyle, Andrew. Love the broadcast. Love that you put it on. Thank you for showing up for us. And looking forward to, in theory, as long as my plane doesn't get delayed, seeing you guys in 2 weeks on Tuesday.
All right, man. Well, you have a great evening. Enjoy the trip. I definitely expect to hear lots of stories from it. But yeah, great job tonight, Craig, and look forward to seeing you for the remainder of the season, sir.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
All right, that is our race winner, and pretty much right on cue as he's doing the pit lane celebrations there. So it's like we timed it perfectly. It definitely wasn't a lucky break, and just it worked out that way. It was definitely pure directorial abilities. But yeah, I mean, that was a good one tonight, Andrew. Like I said, for me, I mean, I'm beyond good for Nick. He had such an amazing drive going, but it shows you're going to be pushing no matter where you are on track, and that's why he was in the position he was because he was having to push so hard. And yet again, as we had talked about, I'm glad we went over the results this time, because once more we're having that weird issue where things aren't showing up correctly. So we're just going to show off this lovely victory lane here. But no, what a good race tonight, though, man.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy, especially like I mentioned, it was so wild that these cars just did 140 laps in the snap of a finger. The next thing you knew, it was white flag and it was time to go. But I'm very excited to see some other names showing up here at the front. Nick Wheeler definitely had the opportunity to take a podium spot, and we could have talked to him, but the cream always rises to the top, as they say. And we talked to the guys that we're usually used to talking to. So some other new faces have shown their name up front, and I hope that remains the case for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, I think it will. And like I said, it's going to be 2 fun treks to finish it off. Like I said, I'm super excited for Auto Club and for the finale, but obviously we still got one more before we get to that track as well. So again, we'll be off next week here on Tuesdays, then back, and then again another week off before the season finale. However, they're still going to be racing on Green White Checker TV. On Thursday, we'll be back with the Super Speedway trucks, and then of course on Sunday for the Super Speedway Gen 4 Cup Series. So Andrew, again, as always, man, it's a pleasure doing this with you, looking to finish off the season strong. It's going to be fun to see if Eric can pull off a late charge on Mark. Obviously, Mark's hoping that doesn't happen. But yeah, so everybody that watches and supports us here, thank you so much for being a part of it. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. But until then, take care, stay safe, have a good night.